I thought I'd give you a little bit of insight into the book writing process and progress as I'm building out the revenue operations playbook for founders, and I can keep you in touch as we make progress through the various chapters. Um, for me, writing a book, the information is in here, and it's just about getting it out in a nice, consistent format that is engaging and leads the reader on a journey from A to B. We want it to be a problem solver rather than just an educational book. And so one of the ways that I start doing that, firstly, I just start with the manuscript in the right format. And by that, I mean that when I go to the page setup, I've set it up in the size that I want it to be when it's published. So 5.5 by 8.5, which is about this size. This is the previous book that I wrote. So it's a nice size of book that fits into most bookshelves, not too big, not too small. So I've set up the paper correctly, and then the margins as I want them to be. And this means that I can get a real good idea of how many pages I've got as I'm writing it. I've also set up all of the different fonts that I want. So I know that I want this to be in Merriweather, and the different sizes of these fonts are all in there. So the book can really come to life as I'm writing it rather than having to backtrack and do this later on. I've put in some of the front matter already. I'll be tidying this up as I format it later on, but we've got the title, we've got a subtitle, who's it by, how do you get in touch with me, and then the copyright. Now, for me, the table of contents is at the heart of the book writing process. It's the first thing that I create. It helps me to figure out the flow of the book and what I need to write and potentially in what order. So just to give you some guidance here, I've got the table of contents, what this book is and how it can help you. And then what you'll start to see is that each of these chapters and then the subheadings actually describe the key value point that you're going to get from that specific section. So here we've got a chapter on filling the dark funnel with buyer content. And the key points that are going to come across in that chapter are that buyers trust their peers more than any vendor they might speak to. That as a vendor, you need to discover where your buyers are hanging out. You then need to create content that is of value for that dark funnel, and then enable your customers and partners to spread the word. Even if you didn't even read that chapter, you've got the 4 main points that you're going to learn from that. And this is so valuable because when someone picks the book up off a bookshelf, or when they're scanning through those first few pages on Amazon, look inside, they want to be able to get the value that you're going to provide to them in the book. If you have a chapter called Sales 101 or Introduction to Marketing, it doesn't teach anyone anything. So my goal is that even if you only ever had access to the table of contents, you would get value from it. So my first job has been to define what this table of contents is going to look like and what the chapters are going to cover, and the key points that I want a reader to come away with. And because I've got this revenue acceleration flywheel as the structure, it's got 22 different capabilities. There are 11 that are external, and then there's 11 that are internal. It's already laid out quite a nice structure that I can follow for the book. So as I've built out these chapters, you'll see I've got 11 are external capabilities, and then we go through to introducing the internal half of the flywheel, and then there's another 11 capabilities that are focused on the internal aspects of the flywheel. And for each of those, I've already got in my mind what are the key points because I write quite a lot of content on the blog or through my discussions with customers. So I'm not having to invent this stuff or go and research it. I could tell you very quickly exactly what are the key points that I would be helping or advising a customer with. So that's enabled me to have almost a structured guide of what I need to write. And then each morning when I write, it's just about filling in the gaps. And then so far, I've gone through some of the introductory sections. Now, I want this to be a really valuable book that gets you going straight out of the gate. It would be really easy for me to write a book about revenue operations that goes into lots of theory, the history of revenue operations, how it's come from having sales ops and marketing ops and coming together, what other people think of revenue operations. And this just becomes a very academic, educational book that is interesting but doesn't help anyone to drive their business forwards. So here we're going straight in with how this book can help you. The average founder is going to go through 2.1 sales leaders between Series A and Series B. That is the pain, and we're going to explain why that is and how revenue operations for a founder is going to help them to solve that. I'm going to provide a little bit of signposting right up at the front here. What is in each of these chapters and where to start. So really just helping to orientate the reader about these upcoming 22 chapters and where they can focus if they want to dive into specific ones. Then there's a little bit of credibility. Why should you listen to me when there are other books on this topic? So a little bit about my experience in sales leadership and building out channel programs and the work that I do with founders today. And then we get into the book proper, and here we're really setting the scene, the pain for a founder that has just raised their Series A funding. What got you here will not get you there. You may be sitting on the top of your product market fit mountain, and you've just raised this amount of money because you've proved that you can sell a product that customers will pay for. But now you're at the bottom of the go-to-market fit mountain. And so what I describe here, sort of been writing over the last week, is just laying out where you are today and where you need to be in a couple of years, and the fact that this is a whole new set of problems to the ones you've already figured out. Maybe it's making things crystallize that challenge that is in front of the founders and why you need to continue reading this book. We talk a little bit about more of the pain there. Pain, challenges that are going to come up in the book here. And then, so you need a plan, you need a solution. And this is where I do a very short introduction to what is revenue operations. And I do that because many people will be coming into this book with a preconceived idea of what revenue operations or RevOps is. I've heard about RevOps. Yeah, it's someone that manages my HubSpot. I've heard about RevOps. It's someone that builds out the compensation model in a spreadsheet or gives me the reports that I need for my investors. And if you hold on to that misconstrued image of what RevOps is, then you'll miss the real strategic value of RevOps. But that is the only definition that we're providing. And then we move straight into the revenue acceleration flywheel, which becomes the heart of the next 22 chapters of what this book is. I'm explaining to a founder the external capabilities. That's 11 of them. Here we're looking from the perspective of our prospects, our customers, and our partners as they look in at our business and their own buying experience as they travel through their own buying process. What is their experience and how can we iterate and improve on that? And then below that are the 11 internal capabilities. So across our marketing, sales, and customer success teams, what do we need to deliver in order to enable those external capabilities for our prospects, customers, and partners? I introduce a little bit about the maturity model, how for each of those 22 capabilities, there are 3 stages of maturity that we'll highlight in each of the chapters. You're either a beginner for that capability, you haven't started at all yet, or you're just beginning. You're a builder, you're on the journey, but you've still got a way to go. Or you're advanced. I think I might change that word advanced, but you're advanced and you really are nailing that capability. And then we get into the 22 chapters, the external half of the flywheel, with a little explanation about why we look at that. How do we define a prospect? How do we define a customer? How do we define partners and why are they important? And then we start with the first capability, which is about filling the dark funnel with buyer-focused content to enable your customers and your partners to talk about you in a good light when you're not in the room. And this is the chapter that I've just been writing this morning. My exercise over the coming weeks is really to fill in the rest of the chapters. So here's an example as what I'll be writing tomorrow. Create owned content that teaches your buyer. Defining your ideal customer profile and your target personas, defining the jobs to be done for each persona, teaching your buyer about the problem, not the solution. These are the subheadings. I've already got them there, and what I need to do is fill in the gaps with what is in my head. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight into my writing process and the progress so far. And because I've laid out this structure of the table of contents, it's going to be a fairly rapid process as I fill in the blanks over the course of the next 3 or 4 weeks. I will update you with progress as I get through to the end of the external half of the flywheel and I begin the internal one. Chat to you soon.